today's video, I am gonna be dedicating my band presentation to a very special band to introduce their very special new album release. It has officially been released on the 7th of June, so the special album which I'd love to introduce in today's video is Kasbek, one of the albums which I personally consider one of the best releases of 2019. First of all, we're gonna do some short band information presentation, and then we're going to be rightly skipping to the new songs. There are 12 of them, and all 12 songs definitely deserve to be featured within this episode. So without further ado, let's start right away with the album Kasbek by the Golden Apes. The Golden Apes have actually been one of my favorite bands for many years already. This special band is musically featuring a wide range of different musical styles, different soundscape features and atmosphere, and also emotionally conveyed vocal expressions. But also on the lyrical perspective, they are highly talented musical artists. The Golden Apes is based in Berlin, and it was initially founded by the outstanding musician 𝐸 𝐸𝐵𝐸, who is doing vocals, lyrical compositions, as well as some highly interesting soundscape features on this special album. Erik Bass, who's mainly responsible for the enchanting guitar lines on the band's albums, as well as Christian Lebrecht and his talent for uniquely created bass lines. And this band has been founded in 1998. The band's name, Golden Apes, has a very interesting significance, which I want to unveil in this video. The term Golden Apes is an adaptation from the content, especially the opening speech, in the very famous novel 𝐒𝐮𝐲𝐽 𝐳𝐶𝐞 by Friedrich Nietzsche, and this term directly alludes to the opening speech by Zarathustra, who is the main protagonist in this literature masterpiece. He is dedicating his own perception and his own meaning and symbolism in life to the complete and utter self-reflection and the imaginary creation of a very distinctive ideograph of a superhuman or so-called hyperhuman who isn't defined by the afterlife or what is going to be happen with humans beyond, but mainly focusing on the here and now. Especially the Christian teaching, such as having an immortal soul, which at some point escapes the body, therefore is considered separate from the physical existence of us humans, gets strictly disrespected by Zarathustra as well as Nietzsche himself, because both of them exclude the possibility of giving meaning to the human life by thinking of the afterlife. So in general, the Golden Apes is a well-mastered poetic adaptation of the opening speech, successfully capturing one of the main interpretative aspects when it comes to the whole novel, because it directly reflects that humans, who often claim to be the absolute pride of creation in comparison to other living beings such as the animals, must still admit to our roots within the evolution. But let's not talk about this way too much and continue with the band itself. Current members whose musical talent is visible on the new album Kasbek are 𝐸 𝐸𝐸, who is still the singer and responsible for all vocals and lyrical compositions within this special album. He's also doing keyboards. Then we've got Christian Lebrecht, who's the bass player. We've also got Aris Tsarakas, who is playing guitars, as well as 𝐵𝐴 𝐵𝐴, who is the keyboard player. When it comes to a genre definition, of course, I'd always love to inform you about the fact that I am generally not fond of defining different genres for unique bands who have created their own artistic masterpieces. This band can and will never be defined by any kinds of already existing genre definitions. It is just a fact, because this band has, since the beginning of course, evolved their very unique and distinctive sounds, but also this special band doesn't focus on fitting into certain genre definitions or categorizations when it comes to music, which is very impressive and a high statement of personal independence when it comes to musical creation. We as listeners sense a special and very delicate sense of melancholy and darkened passions within each individual song. This feeling which gets conveyed through the music of the Golden Apes and lets us feel a gloomy shiver of discovering shelter and relief within very lonely and desperate surroundings. When it comes to the discography of the band, we have the debut album. You should definitely consider listening to it. It is called Stigma 3 AM, and it does only come as a CD version and was first released in 2000. We've got Thalassemia, which was first released in 2001. We also have Helianthus and the War. This album first came out in 2003, followed by Structures, The Inner Scars, The Geometry of Tempest. This special album was released in 2007. Next we've got Denying the Towers, Our Words Are Falling From, which came out in 2010, as well as Riot, which was released in 2012, the Lang Syne Litanies, which came out in 2014, and the former album before Kasbek was released, and this came out in 2016. And of course, skipping to the newest release, which is called Kasbek. This is my personal favorite one so far, although I appreciate the other ones a lot. So let's begin with the song choices. I want to introduce a very special song which meant a lot to me when I first listened to it, and this is Morbus Me. Morbus Me is my personal favorite one of this album, but in fact I appreciate all their songs. So Morbus Me, we've got very marvelous and definitely enchanting guitar lines within this song, and a sense for very morbid romanticism, not only in the lyrics but also in the emotionally portrayed vocals and guitar lines, which are, especially as a solo, perfectly setting the scene for many layers of darkest musical delights. All of those layers are then bound to this lovely sense for dark poetry and expressive vocal performances, for creating an atmosphere that not only haunts you when you're listening to the special song, but surely continues when you have already stopped listening to it and continue with the other songs on this album. So without further ado, let's rightly begin with this enchanting track. Another song which I highly appreciate and which I love to introduce as my second choice is called Home. What I definitely have to emphasize about this specific song is that the continuous bass lines, which are realized in such a stunning way, step by step lead us into the lyrical story and all the memories which get unveiled through the lyrics and also through the emotionally expressive vocal passages. It is one of the tracks which always reminds me of a special scenery, such as being stuck in a train past midnight and having shivers all of my physical existence and just being unable to think about anything else than returning home and hoping to see everyone and everything that is familiar to me personally. Perhaps I'm a bit predestined for having such an emotional connection to this special song because I personally am far away from everything that I could consider home at the moment. But from a non-subjective point of view, this song emotionally features a great variety and a great range of different states of someone losing his or her personal home, or simply being fond of returning back to a special point of time which slowly vanishes in our own minds. And that's what I consider highly impressive about this special song. So without further ado, let's rightly begin.
To try to stay away.
So next I'd love to continue with Parting, the melancholic feeling of the process of parting or cutting off a certain and very special bonding. Especially the finally emerged and created sounds dive into the deepest depth of the listener's soul, reach the core of your own personal existence. I must really confess that after this special track ended, I was thoroughly impressed by the whole album. This must have been one of the best song choices which a band ever did when it comes to the final track of an album. But it also reflects the whole spirit and captures the main core of the album itself in just a bit more than 5 minutes. The introductory soundscapes of this song, in combination with the dark spoken vocals, which almost give us the impression of reciting a lost and long ago vanished letter, which was never meant to be sent away. I definitely adore the speaking passages. They lead us, as listeners, to the conclusion of the song having a million of different soundscapes, which increase the storytelling and the unique statements within the song's lyrics. So without further ado, let's rightly go for it.
And
So let's continue with another purely precious song, which is called Oblivion. Oblivion was one of the first songs I got addicted with when I first tuned into the album after VT, actually on my travel way home. Soundscape-wise, we have a lot of highly interesting and impressive features which constantly unveil another perspective of the great musical talent of all artists within the band. Oblivion is a well-mastered musical composition defined by dark vocals, very intense emotion of being buried in oblivion and losing oneself in the great confusion and abundance which our world and especially our current society provides. And especially Vento is another favourite track of mine. The delicate sense of the darkest melancholy which gets unveiled within the song while thinking of fading memories. What I personally perceive as so amazingly intriguing is the duality within the vocal performances and also guitar lines within this special song, which almost give us the impression that the end of loneliness and missing is provided, but can and will never be reached, some kind of as a final statement of hopelessness, yet intertwined with the most precious form of hope itself.
Came back from the mountains, rags and rain, standing down for a smile, and it will always be, and it will always be like
Next, I'd love to continue with 𝐬𝐞𝐳. 𝐬𝐬𝐳 is also called The Healing, and this song gets introduced by very calm and soothing guitar lines in an acoustic way, and through the drumming passages, the listener dissolves into musical parallel spheres. The eponymous title Kasbek is also a very precious song which I love to introduce. We as listeners certainly sense the emotional process of surpassing something or even oneself by losing all memories of the past behind. I can certainly feel the connection to the mythological as well as the naturally existent mountain of Kasbek, which is located in Georgia and actually does count as the third highest mountain in this special country. In Greek mythology, Kasbek is also meant to represent a mountain to which Prometheus has been chained because he decided to take the fire from the gods, which was actually never meant to be given to humans. And in this special story, it's also mentioned that an eagle daily teared out some bits of Prometheus' liver until he was then finally rescued and relieved by Heracles, a son of Zeus and Alcmene. Let's continue with Interference. Interference is surely, for me personally, the ideal track which I will definitely show any DJ at any possible occasion where I'm present, especially as a final track in the early morning hours when everyone is just seeking for dancing in gloomy and atmospherical club lights. The guitar lines are beyond overwhelming, especially the solos always soothe my soul, so let's begin. Deliverance is another song to which I have possibly lost my heart, especially due to the dreamy and very enchantingly played guitar lines. This is a very dreamy song which enchants us by a three-dimensional and highly atmospherical set of different layers of soundscapes and vocal expressions. Let's begin.
I can't forget the things that I killed on your child. Help me.
𝐒𝐻𝐡 Silver Lining is another song which I highly appreciate. The orchestral depth evolved by the musical presence of strings in the background, which could ideally turn this song into the introducing track for a new masterpiece blockbuster directly out of Hollywood. This song shows so many different layers of emotional expressions and atmospherical soundscapes. Especially the mournful atmosphere should be appreciated ever and always.
When I'm falling for you, and so I see.
Another very impressive song is called Sleep, especially also by its lyrical significance. This precious statement of self-reflection deeply speaks to us by the thoughts expressed within its metaphors and allegories, enforced by the final soundscapes, which step by step vanish as the lyrics have already predicted it to be. And this is what keeps on impressing me and makes me fall in love with every single second of this song. So we have now reached the end, almost, the final track, which I highly appreciate and which counts as my secret hidden favorite track, perhaps even my favorite one, Dust and Dew. As a final track, I decided for the song Dust and Dew because this special song captivated and still captivates me every single time when I listen to it. I decided to close my review with the magic of this enchanting song. The female vocals of the highly talented Canadian singer Shannon Hammett, who you possibly already know from her usual project Actors, where she's playing keyboards, as well as Leather, where she's the vocalist, intertwined with the beyond magically and almost serially played guitar lines. The Golden Apes realize a one-of-a-kind song, which goes actually far beyond the original definition of a song. More evolves into a musical and lyrical statement, a unique story getting unveiled within our ears, which is highly enriched by emotionally noticeable passions and atmospherical soundscape layers. If it's not just one of the best songs of this year, I would love to nominate this special song for a masterpiece of eternity. So let the magic begin.
This is what we found, and this is what we sound, and this is when the nights become a sea inside us.
So now we finally come to the end of this special album review of Kasbek by the Golden Apes. All the different songs in order in which I introduced them within this video will be linked down in my description box for you to look at it and get the album yourself. There do exist many copies on the official Golden Apes Bandcamp page, as well as on their official website, which will be always linked down in my description box as always for you to look at it. Next, I'd love to introduce some of the future concerts. As far as you possibly already know, and as far as I've told you in the beginning of this video, the Golden Apes in fact had one performance at 𝐕𝐴𝐻𝐻, which I unfortunately missed due to planning reasons and due to my general confusion. Do me a favor and stop planning now. I will give you all the important dates and notifications. The 28th of November, they are going to be playing at the Kulttempel in Oberhausen. This is more located in the western parts of Germany. And finally, we've got one big festival in which I am highly interested in, but I'm not perfectly sure if I have the possibility to visit it. It is the first festival edition of the Grey Days Festival, which is a new festival which shall be emerging in Leipzig. And this festival is taking place in the Werk 2, where also some concerts at 𝐕𝐴𝐻𝐻 and some parties at 𝐕𝐴𝐻𝐻 have been taking place. And this festival is set on the 13th of November. This has been it. I hope you have the possibility to visit one concert this year if you're living in Germany or consider some travel journeys. As always, all the links are written down in my description box. Which song was your personal favorite one? Write it down in the comments as always. I'm wishing you a magically gloomy day. Keep on sharing the underground bands, and as always, see you soon.